So let's begin for today's topic. Let's start with a blob replication. So blob replication, it is basically giving another storage account access to store your objects inside a blob container, and it's only for our block blobs. Okay. It doesn't support your hierarchical namespace, or we can say data lake storage, DLS. So it has to be just your blobs, or blob storage. So for that, we can enable object replication. Subject replication, again, as a reminder, it was asynchronously. Write it here. So async copy of data of blobs, basically, from one storage account to another. Okay, so basically we will go ahead in our storage account, configure this, configure another storage account in the replication, and it will start copying those our blobs from one storage account to another asynchronously. So it's not going to happen right away. It will depend on its own time based on whenever this seem it feasible. Okay, so that's that. It only works for your blob containers, and it only supports your storage account v2 version. So if you are running classical, it's not going to get supported for blob replication. Also, it's not supported for your data lake storage as well. Okay. What else? There are also some other points that we need something called as, if you remember, we discussed yesterday versioning and change fade, right? So in the option, there was options for versioning of storage account as well as change fade. So versioning would be uh, giving you access to create snapshot or to certain version of your objects. And just in case you modify that object, you can always revert back to a point in time of the version you have stored. Okay, so that's versioning. You have to enable it first in order to use it. And this is for change fade. And you have to enable this option as well. So change fade does our monitoring stuff. It stores changes in a log file. It will generate its own system defined container with the $ in front. Okay, so that would be change fade. And for having blob replication across anywhere, we basically need these two options enabled. So these versioning would be for both source and destination account. So one would be a source account, other is destination. So that's here. So for this, it has to be enabled. Destination, I guess you can correct the spelling. So destination, this is destination. Source, it has to be enabled for both of these. Change fade is only required to enable at source account. So just so it has all the changes made, and then it replicates in its own time asynchronously to another storage account, right? So it has to be enabled on the source account only, but you can enable it on the destination as well. It won't hurt. So for that, it basically in the backend monitors, read the change feed logs, and basically that's how our application goes. So if change feed hasn't changed, it won't copy the data to another storage account, and this is how it gets used in the backend. Apart from this, there's would be your replication policy, which you will create, which will your replication rule on how you want to set up your destination and source storage account. Other than that, we will see this, of course, in demo. You will create a replication rule, and based on that rule, it will copies your data from storage, simple, your source storage account to destination storage account. Other than that, we also know, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. And from the point of view, you can do the replication across region. So it could be across regions, across subscriptions, and as well as across tenants. So your source account could be in one region, your another account, your destination account could be in different regions, so that would work as well. It could be in different subscription, it could be in different tenant as well. Okay, so that's basically all about storage replication there is to it. And there would be some benefits of it. If you remember, we discussed like reduced latency. So if my data is stored in one region in my source storage account, and it's also replicated to another region storage account, so let's say my app or some client want to access that same particular file, so in the backend it will just navigate it to the region in the secondary storage account. So secondary storage account in the secondary region, so it will have for give us better latency. Basically, to no need to travel to always to the primary storage account. The second destination would work as well. Other than that, it will also work with cost optimization. So cost optimization, how this would be. Let's say you have one storage account, your source storage account, and your destination storage account, right? So you are basically using it as a backup, right? It could be any number of reasons, but let's say I just want to use that as a backup storage account. Okay. So all the files inside this will get replicated to this one, right? It's going to be same file. And what I can do in the destination storage account, add it into my archive tier. If you remember access tier, I can just add these files into archive tier. So it will save me on cost as well. So that would be your cost optimization portion. So we are replicating the storage account and not paying for another storage account full service. We are just paying for the archive side of things. Okay. So yeah, that's replication. Any questions till now? So here I'm in my Azure storage account. And if you remember, this one was our data lake storage. We added the name DLS. Here's data lake storage. And if I try to find that replication, it's not here, right? I can search for it as well. It's geo replication, but geo replication, if you remember, that was GRS and LRS type of stuff, but there's no blob or object replication. If I go here, you can see I have object replication, right? So I'll click here. This is my replication rule, which, like I told you, you will configure, and based on this rule, it will copy your data asynchronously from one storage account to another. So you can see I'm giving my destination storage account here. It could be this one, this one. I'm not sure this is gonna work because this is data lake storage. As you can see, it's not gonna work because object replication is not available for this one. Okay, so what we will do is cancel this, create a new storage account. Let's do the same group, give the same region. Let's do a different region. So just so we know it works for different regions as well. Okay. So it doesn't make sense to store that into one region because it won't help you with latency much. I'll go with let's say East Asia maybe. So that's a different region. I'll give it a name as replication account training 01. Okay, I guess everything else, let's keep it by default for now and just review and create. Okay, that will basically by default gonna create a blob storage account for me. Let it submit, let it deploy, come back to my storage account. And if you remember, we need to turn on specific options. So if I go to my configuration part, make sure you have your, no, sorry, not configuration, but data protection. Make sure you have your versioning and change feed enabled. So I haven't enabled that previously. If I even tried to, work on that replication, it's gonna give me an error. So I'll enable this. I'll hit save in the meanwhile, and in the meanwhile, my deployment has created as well. I'll just go back to my object application, try to create a new rule. Okay, let's wait for a second because it just got created. It's going to take some time to get uploaded everywhere. So if we refresh this, okay, let's wait for a few seconds. Okay, no worries. Let's just access it from here. So if you remember, we have to have versioning enable on both of these accounts. So I'll go ahead and enable versioning as well. So copy this, save it. It's done. Let's go back. Hopefully we can see it now. Okay, so here is my replication storage account. Let's try and create a replication now. Replication, create replication rule. Now it's available. This one, right? You can add source container, which container, all the objects inside a container you want to copy. So I'm going to go with this container, and in the destination there is no container available. Okay, so I guess they should be fine, but just in case it don't give you any error, it's better to make another container. Okay, so let's go back to here, create a backup container for ourselves, and in this container we will asynchronously make our files backup. Okay, so let's call it backup container. Hit create. Wait for a couple seconds. It should be right here. Let's give back here. And if you remember, we enabled change logs here. Let's go back to container. You can see my change feed is created by default. So it says $sign. So it's generated by system, not myself. And it came from the change feed, which we enabled in the data protection. Right here. Okay. So your storage account which doesn't have this enabled, it won't have that change field. Now finally, let's go with this one. Do this, choose this, and create. And if everything passes, it's gonna start creating the application rule and apply it. So my application rule, you can see, is applied here. My destination container here, my destination storage account here. It is. So you can hide this. You can create a new replication rule, but make sure you can only create 2 replication rule for single source account. Okay, so let's say this is my source account. I'm gonna create another application rule to some other storage account in different subscription or anything. So you can create one more, but not more than that. At least from the time I have done it, you can only do it 2 times. Maybe give it a try on your own. Try it if you can. Nowadays, can create more than 2 replication for same storage account, and maybe let me know about that. But yeah, you can only create 2 as of now, from my knowledge. So yeah, that's pretty much it. You have created the application successfully. And if I open here, it's not gonna do it right now because it's asynchronous. It can take days even. We don't know. So after maybe a couple hours, check on it, or maybe we will try it in the next class, and we'll see if it has replicated my contents from this container. Okay, so asynchronous, we don't know how much time it's gonna take. It depends on Microsoft. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how you will go ahead and create your replication rule. Any questions? All good?
Yeah, good. I think you can proceed.
Okay, great. So next one was our lifecycle management, right?
Life management.
Lifecycle management. Yep.
Okay, suppose if you're not using that files for some time, that will delete something like that.
Yeah. So basically, based on our access of a file, it will change tiers automatically. So we don't need to go ahead and manage tiers manually. So let's say I have an access file in maybe 60 days. I want it to be moved to cold tier or even archive tier, right? So it can save me cost. So that would be your lifecycle management. Okay. So it's basically automating your access tiers. Okay. And we know why we need to do that to save our cost for cost optimization. We basically will move from hotter to colder tier. So it could be hot to cold, it could be cold to archive as well. Okay. Other than that, it would have if then we can say just your lifecycle rule. So just as replication rule, you need to create lifecycle rule as well. So based on the rule, the cycle you have specified in the lifecycle rule, it will do this automation from changing your tiers. Okay. And we have 3 tiers: hot, cold, archive. We will see how we can do it. And I guess we can go ahead and ask it to delete my files as well. So lifecycle, this was for only blobs, right? There were some certain limitation on this, but this is again only for blobs, of course. But yeah, you can append snapshots, version, etc. In this one. Okay. This was not only for blobs like blobs, but for append blobs as well. So we can do lifecycle management for append blobs too. Okay. In previous one, we only were able to do blobs, and it will also support your snapshots, which wasn't supported before. Snapshots. So it's not like the same thing, but I'm just trying to see what replication is supported. So it's not supported over snapshots as well. Okay. So certain restrictions we need to keep in mind from exam perspective, and everything else is good. So we will basically create an lifecycle rule. It would be kind of if then it would like technically an if then statement. Like if this days passes, then do this. Okay. So if then statements. So once we create that, it will work on this automation process, according to our role. What else there is to it? I suppose block and of course storage account. Yeah, it's only for block. So this is about it. So yeah, we discussed this. Just a quick refresh on this. Let us do its lab. So again, here am I inside my Azure portal, and now let's try to create our lifecycle management role. So for that, you will go inside lifecycle management. Again, if I want to show you the same thing here, you can do this here as well. Okay, add rule. It can work for data lake storage as well. Okay, but here it is this. But object replication is not sorted, but lifecycle management is. So this is my lifecycle management. I will create a rule. It's gonna look like this. So first give it a name, give it a meaningful name like hot to cold or cool, however you want to say it. Apply rule to all blobs in the storage account. We can limit it using filter as well. So once I click here, it will go ahead and make another tab for filters, and we will see how we can add filters as well. So as you can see, it's not only supported for blob, it can be done for append blobs as well. If you click here, we would need to specify that, but not really. Yeah, not really specify that. It will just recognize the append blobs and manage its life cycle according to this rule. It also supports snapshots and versions. Hit next. So here, this is your if then rules, which I was talking about. So if here, then here. So I'm saying last modified. So it's if your object is not modified from let's say more than give it a time of 30 days, it's gonna do this action. So do you want to delete the blobs or change it to the additional tier? Okay, storage account this. Okay, where is my cold tier? So I'm missing delete. Let's see. Remove this. Hit next. Okay, so append blobs only get deleted because you can't change the tier. So here I just did block blobs only, so I can choose the tier as well. So you want to move it to cold storage or you want to move it to archive storage based on your site. So if I'm gonna do it like 60 days, this file hasn't been modified, it's just staying there. Okay, I can go ahead and choose it to archive tier. Okay, if I go here and let's say remove this one, we need to select answers. Okay, let's do it this one. So if you play around with these options, basically you would have different conditions. That's what I'm trying to a make point here. Okay, so try to play around with this, which conditions unlock for you, and from that you will have this better understanding of things. But for now, it's basically if else condition based on the block she's gonna specify. We will move it from archive storage. Let's move it to cool. We can delete that blob as well. So if it's not accessed from or modified in 60 days, just delete the blob. We don't need to worry about it. We can add another conditions. Let's say for 30 days, we will go ahead and add move to cool storage. Okay, you can't use the same condition, of course, because it doesn't make sense. So first at 30 days, we will basically move it to cool storage, and if it's more than 60 days, we will delete the blobs. All right, or better yet, you will do it archive. So first go it to move it to cool, then after 30 days move it to archive, and then you can add like 90 days or 120 days and delete that blob and hit next. And here you can add the prefix. So let's say I want to add my container name is container, and I will say all files that start with tex, and I will add my wildcard. So all files that start with text, it's going to apply to only that. So that's our filter set. So it won't apply to all the blobs inside my container, but only based on this prefix. Okay, you can do this the same as well. Index key, your attributes of blobs, and enter the value and choose the operator. If that matches only, then do it. Okay, so this is basically the simple filtering you can do. I can hit add. It will add my rule and it has enabled it. I can disable it anytime as I want, and I can delete it as well. Okay. So if you go ahead, I guess you can update the rule if you don't want to create it every time. And that's pretty much it. So after 30 days, what it's going to do is if it's going to check for in this container, check for test file, and after 30 days it will remove it. So we can set it to 1 day if you want to do it, but yeah, that's how you will configure your lifecycle management. So it has automated that process which we were doing manually. Like let's say this one, I wanted to change its tier to save me cost. I would need to click on change tier, and then I would basically do it manually. Okay, that's it automated the process. So everything good till now? Any questions?
Not from my end. I'm good.
Okay, good. So yeah, that's pretty much both of these things. Yep, you do. Bye.
Bye.